We're here. We're on the air, folks. You are listening to Ruthless Politics. It's episode number 10. We hit a milestone.
I can't believe it's number 10 already. We did 10 of these? Wow.
How do you feel about that?
I think we're famous. Are we famous?
We're getting there. You're more famous than me.
Infamous, maybe.
More infamous. Yeah, he's like a magnet for lawsuits, folks.
Hey. Don't give anybody any fucking ideas out here.
Right. No, that's it. I'm just kidding. You're listening to It's Number 10. I am Trees here with
Kid Chronic.
And we're going to get right into it, folks. You know we do an hour of the show every time. This is the anniversary number 10. I'm looking up here. What is the 10th anniversary thing that you're supposed to give here? Does anyone know that offhand? 10th anniversary?
Is that like a special gift? Like, do you owe me a rock?
Yeah, it's the special thing is, like gold is 50. I have no idea what it is, if anybody knows. I think it's aluminum. Yeah, aluminum.
Aluminum
rose.
For your 10th?
Yeah, 10th
Really? You get a
anniversary.
freaking tin can if you're married 10 years? That's fitting.
It's very odd. Well, they want you to get to those special levels like gold.
Yeah, and they figure if you made it 10 years, you don't give a fuck anymore.
25 silver.
Give her
I
a
think,
tin
right?
can. Call it a day.
Yeah, 10 years doesn't mean shit anymore. And in this world, 10 years is actually a long time. It's like this is the 10 years is 40.
I've never had a 10-year relationship. Have you?
There you go. Yes, I did. I was married and had a child.
Wow.
I gave it a go. Not anymore, right? Single and ready to mingle. All right, let's get right into it. First of all, we did take a week off. So week 10, our 10th episode, which could have been last week, was due to Hurricane Dorian. We missed that situation there. So everybody that lucked out in Florida, it's terrible news for the Bahamas. And if anybody can help out, give money and do what they can. Bahamas,
Yeah, send
really
them
got
something
fucked.
down there in the Bahamas, man. They got hit bad.
Yeah, it's actually a really, really terrible thing.
They still have no power, no water.
They have nothing. It's actually like really like a nuclear disaster. It's kind of scary. One of the things I
It's
heard.
like getting washed up on a beach.
Well, this is how scary hurricanes can be. And why we also need to be very thankful that we're in the United States. God bless, for real. This is an infrastructure thing, too. Bahamas got hit like a lot of places got hit. But when it sits on you for 30 hours, and we're going to get into all this funny weather shit we're finding out that's going on. And Pat here has already found some very interesting stories on manipulation. We're going to get in that. But 30 hours it sat on the Bahamas after it moved right past Puerto Rico at 13, sat on them for 30, obliterated everything because it's a bad infrastructure. This is not the United States, obviously, whatever. And they are ruined. They say that the death toll, which last I heard was 30.
It's 45 now.
45 now. It will be in the hundreds. These people are missing. They just have not declared
Dude,
them
they've been
dead.
washed out to sea.
Yeah.
They're gone. The people
Yeah.
are literally gone. Like, they're not going to find the bodies. That's what's crazy about it.
That's true.
You know what's an interesting thing about the Bahamas? Anybody that's been there may or may not have noticed this, is that U.S. companies have come in, and they've bought up all the beaches. Cruise ship companies.
And China.
Hotel companies. Yes, China. Billionaires have bought full islands in there. And so what's happened is the Bahamians don't have a lot of natural resources. They don't have, like, lumber. They don't have room to farm. So what they had was their beaches. That's all they had to sell. And by the time they realized what had happened, the beaches were already bought up by all the Americans. So the Bahamians don't have any money to do the infrastructure to protect them from the hurricanes or to rebuild after these hurricanes. And guess what's probably fine? All those big resorts in the Bahamas are probably fine. And it's just kind of fucked up that, you know, they lock the locals out and just kind of protect the resort. And then afterwards, everything's trashed. And like, okay, open back up for business. And hopefully some locals will wander into work here. It's kind of fucked up what we've done. It's American imperialism. That's what it is.
Well, take a look at this. And it's funny because we have not seen, I'd love to see, if someone could get an aerial, we got to look at this is called the Bahamar. Take a look at that. Pretty nice, huh?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's a Chinese paid for hotel in the Bahamas. China, like you said, the United States and China have a lot going on there. This is the secret. We're going to get into this. So again, let's just dive right in.
Here in Florida, if you're in a hurricane, at the Hard Rock Hotel, which is a famous Seminole Hard Rock Hotel, which is down in Hollywood, Florida, if there's a hurricane, they empty out the hotel, and all of the Indians are allowed to come into the hotel because the hotel is built on the Indian reservation, and that helps protect the Indians in the hurricane. The Bahamas should have some sort of laws like that they get protection from these big resorts like that, because that's going to withstand a hurricane for sure. That's beautiful.
I'm very interested to know what kind of damage happened to this place because it's not on the news. And by the way, I bet nobody knew that China, of all places, came to this side of the planet and put a giant, beautiful, go Google Bahamar. It's like the Bahia Mar in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, it's probably related.
Yeah, Bahamar. And it's this fucking huge, beautiful property.
What does Bahamar mean, and why is every hotel named that?
Mar is sea in Spanish. I'm not sure Baja.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's sea. My daughter's name is Marisol in English, or Marisol in Spanish. Mar-e-sol, the sea and the sun.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
How about that? So I know a little Spanish. I'm going to let you jump into this kind of weather manipulation. We're going to talk about some cloud seeding, HAARP, and can hurricanes be controlled? They've talked about nuking one, but now you're talking about, can we drop ice into one? What the fuck are we doing?
We did talk about the Trump nuking one kind of like
it's not so
gaffe
silly,
that
is
happened.
it?
So that sparked us talking behind the scenes about weather manipulation. And normally me being a liberal and somewhat sensible person, I'm like, okay, obviously we can't control the weather. That's just stupid. Okay. So I start researching, can we control the weather? And sure enough, I don't know if we can control the weather, but we can sure as hell make weather. So they've got this machine that they were using, an RS-25 engine test. It's a NASA machine. This thing, when they test this rocket engine, it pours out so much, basically like carbon dioxide and oxygen, which is essentially a cloud, I guess. It pours out so much of it that it creates these clouds. And they can also create clouds that literally will rain now. So they can create a cloud, put it up in the air, and you could go walk under this cloud, and it'll rain on you. So if you can go on YouTube and you can see that they can create clouds and that they can also make it rain, and we all know that they seed clouds. I think that's pretty common now for farming and different reasons, and if there's a drought or something. So you would have to wonder, can the government, in fact, create a storm, steer a storm, or have any impact on a storm at all? It's possible.
Well, my theory, and I'm kind of a conspiracy theorist. I shouldn't say that. But is that if you have the ability to spend the money, which we do, and you have the scientists, you're going to find all different ways as to manipulate all sorts of things that you have possibilities to control. And weather is a very, very important factor here. We know the kind of damage it causes. We know that it can kill people. So it's a population control device if it needs to be. And it's also a scare tactic. I mean, people get very nervous. Remember, you have monsoons, tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes.
It's not
There's all
the
sorts
best
of shit.
weapon, though. So, it's like, okay, so what happens? You're like, man, China, you're really pissing us off in this trade war. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a thunderstorm over your country for like a few days. I mean, it's just not the most effective weapon, The
definition.
The hurricane would be. Now, if you could send a hurricane
Absolutely.
towards somebody, that would be wild.
Well, there is a conspiracy theory that this hurricane was controlled by Donald Trump. And I'm going to get into that. Cloud seeding, by the way, the dropping of crystals in the clouds to cause rain. So just think about that. Something that you thought, Mother Nature, uncontrollable, she rules it all. We found a way to actually manipulate those clouds. And if you know this, back to amateur meteorology, if you're a kid, a whole point of a rainstorm or a thunderstorm or a cloud is the clouds get like a saturated diaper.
Yeah.
And at some point they release. It's that simple.
It's not complex science.
It's not. And that's why, and this is why they get it wrong. You're very right. Meteorologists are very overrated. That's why they put pretty chicks in there. It's not a hard thing. Not to be disrespectful, but it's not like being a neuroscience. But my point is this. The reason they get it wrong so much is they can predict the rain. They can't tell exactly when that cloud is going to piss on you.
Yeah.
And it moves. And you see in summertime in Florida, the clouds move very fast, by the way, when they're dark. It can't determine, well, is it going to fall on Daytona? Is it going to fall on Boca? Is it going to fall? And these things move, and it gets very hard to predict
They can track the kind of global winds, if you will. They can track weather moving around the planet. But you're right. They don't know when it is going to rain. But if you look at the last Hurricane Dorian, it went right up our coast. The models had it taken right up our coast. And most people in Florida, I mean, I didn't get too scared. I brought in the pool furniture. I made a few things around the house a little safer. But that's it, really. And so we trust the models so much that we leave ourselves in harm's way.
Here's why I didn't, and you're right. They can predict it, and it was all about that northern pattern, if you remember, pushing it into Florida. It was going like this, and then they said it's going to just curve right into Florida. But you don't know how long this thing's going to last for, right? So this dissipated, and then it didn't go into Florida. It went just far enough, stayed off our coast, hugged, and hit the Carolinas. And
a lot of
they
them seem to hug the coast.
Them too.
They seem to hug the coast a lot
It's
lately.
very odd.
It's very bad for the beach, too, though, because it tears the beach out to sea, because it's just churning right off of our coast. And so it pulls all of that sand off of our beaches and tosses it out to sea. So it's actually kind of it's not good for Florida tourism. I'll say that.
Even though we didn't get a direct hit, the beaches did suffer. Real quick, HAARP is the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. These are the people that you hear if you're seeing the chemtrails or grids in the sky. Who's dropping the crystals?
Do you believe in the
doing?
chemtrail thing?
Oh, I absolutely do.
Oh, of course you do.
Well, because here's why I do
Bullshit.
too.
Can't it just be like a
ends.
plane trail?
It could be, but when I see them in grid form, or when I see a plane going up like a space shuttle and not like a plane that United Airways that's going to New York like this, I'm watching planes go up like that. It's just very
You're on
odd.
the Space Coast. They're not planes. They're probably rockets.
They could be. Yeah, right. So
guys literally sitting outside Cape Canaveral like, these planes are weird.
That's a Roman candle. What is he doing? But no, if anyone's doing the cloud sitting, it's HAARP and some of these bad guys. So I want to touch on that.
Well, hold on a second. I want to get into the deep conspiracy theory. So if you guys are internet junkies like I am, then and you turned me on to this internet conspiracy. Here's what they're saying. Trump and Bill Clinton created the hurricane with the storm machine so that it would sit over Epstein's house, which it did. Epstein's house got the bad end of the storm and destroyed all the evidence.
Yeah, I want to see some pictures
that is
of that.
a conspiracy. And then that's why it went up the coast, because he just had to take out Epstein's house. He didn't want to hit America.
It hit the Virgin Islands before it went right by Puerto Rico. They spared Puerto Rico. God bless those people, because they couldn't handle another one of those.
Bill Clinton probably turned it at the last second, because Trump wanted to hit Puerto Rico.
It was a battle for the switch.
He pulls the lever.
Get San Juan. No,
Trump, no.
Virgin Islands first.
We agree. Just Epstein's Island.
If we hit the Virgin Islands, we can't hit Puerto Rico. It's going to go too
St.
far.
John, that's it.
Yeah, little St. John. Listen, it hit the Virgin Islands. No talk about that from the media. I want to see what happened in that guy's fucking house. Somebody get a drone over that bitch. That's number one. And then right after Puerto Rico, and I saw this 13 miles an hour, sits on the Bahamas. Here's something I also heard in that conspiracy theory. Denmark has a joint venture with China there. So here's what China's doing as well in the Bahamas. They're getting their foot in with hotels and fun stuff and that. What they're really trying to do is put a base, whether it's underground or what they're trying to do, to be close to the United States, because China doesn't have any assets around here. That's what we were about Cuba for, that Russia has an asset right on our...
I'm sure...
you know what I mean?
If I was China right now, and they have all the money in the world coming in, right, and the only thing that they don't have is that America could just basically, wipe them off the map if they want to. I'm sure China has an aggressive military policy right now. I'm sure they're building bases and secret shit and weapons all over the goddamn place. I mean, that... I have no doubt in that.
They have an interest in getting close to the United States, and that.
Oh yeah, I mean, all you need is some missiles there, really. If you get a missile silo, that's all you need.
And so there was some talk, and again, this is very not really provable, but do your own research on this. This is the shit that the Q people are really into, but that sat on the Bahamas for 30 hours, folks. Track hurricanes for years. I've lived here for 40 years of my life. We've been tracking them since I'm 8 years old with the fucking Publix map, you know what I mean, that you were forced to do in school every year. And they never sit that long on somewhere and obliterate it. And so whatever China had going on, it's almost like,
you think it's like a real
Mr.
estate
Trump,
play.
Touche,
it's like, okay, clear that real estate land for us. Now China's going to come in and buy it.
Well, it's a matter of if China had anything going on, you're starting over now, fucker.
Right.
You're starting over. Whatever you had going on here, you got to fucking do it over again.
Oh, I got you. So whatever China had going on there. Obliterate it and start over. That is a new U.S. policy. You saw that I forget who was doing a missile thing. I think Iran was doing a missile launch, and it blew up. And then Trump put out a tweet. He's like, "Oh, sorry that happened. We didn't have anything to do with it." Like kind of insinuating that we did. And that kind of really hit home for me, that I think we blew up some of those North Korean missiles too. I think
there's rumors of that.
Yeah, I think that kind of espionage is going on big time right now.
Well, listen, because you're a computer junkie. Not only is that happening, but I think even the Stuxnet or whatever the Israelis did that. They infiltrated through the computers to then melt the cores of some of this shit in Iran.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just blowing it up, or like you said,
and people died. It's like
there's ways to do this, to short circuit shit that will then make shit happen.
Yeah, that's the new game, man.
People don't understand, man. It's way scarier than they think.
I also think that too, when
fiction.
all of a sudden like a U.S. ship is in the China Sea and then it runs into another U.S. ship, and you're like, how the fuck did that happen? It's like, because it's got Chinese GPS in it.
Now, before we wrap up Dorian, there's one funny little aspect to this, and there wasn't much funny going on here. They called it SharpieGate, and everything's a gate, and it's a great term for it. So, listen, I love Donald Trump. But this is some funny shit, and I don't know what this guy's trying to pull. Like, this is what I hate also. I got to be honest, when I hate about the Democrats, in my opinion, is a lot of the double standards is we will point, but we will do what we want. This is where Trump really, it hurts his legitimate arguments when he tries to defend something like this. This bothers me.
It's part.
So what happened with SharpieGate? Everyone should know this,
and it's a character tick.
Refuses to be wrong ever.
Basically, he met in early maps. It's Alabama was maybe kind of on the edge of in play, and so
I didn't believe that.
And so Trump must have seen this in like an early brief or something. Yes. And so he's talking loosely like he always does, which gets him in trouble. And he says that Alabama's in harm's way. And so then the National Weather Association has to come out and say no. It's in Alabama. Nothing's going to happen to you. And so then Trump kind of gets in a tit for tat with them, and then he doubles down on all this stuff, and he starts trying to defend it. And this is Trump's big mistake. And you would think an internet guy would know better. You know, because this is classic like internet thing. When you try to defend yourself, like first rule of hole digging, stop fucking digging, bro. But this guy digs like a motherfucker. So he breaks out his Sharpie, he changes the map, and then he slaps it on the news. And the guy on the news, the first guy's like, it looks like you edited that map with a marker.
Listen.
And he's like, I don't know how that happened.
So just to fill in some of the holes here, you're 100% right. This is so classic Trump. This is so classic. He puts out the tweet, Alabama's in the cone. Everybody know. Alabama puts out a tweet immediately after from like their emergency service that says, no, we're not. We are not getting hit. It is not going to break that far into the mainland. So they try to let their people know, like, don't panic, like Florida panicking and all that. So, and they were right about that. I mean, like, let's clear the air here a little bit, dude. So he then does that, and then it's a back and forth because CNN and everybody jumps on this like, you fucking idiot, you messed up. Look, you're scared Alabama. And they jump on
it also
this tweet.
doesn't help. He
So
has
they
like
make
a
fun of him.
presidential Sharpie, right? So he's like obviously the guy who did it because he's made such a big.
Well, you see his Sharpie and the signatures.
He told the Sharpie company, he said, "Listen, I don't like these pens that they have here. You need to send me a presidential
Is that
Sharpie."
true?
Yeah, and so they custom made him a presidential
know that.
Sharpie to his exact specifications.
That's
he has a
fucking
black
great.
Sharpie, and that's what he writes all
I
over
gotta look
everything
that
with.
up.
Yeah,
President
so
gets his own
it was
Sharpie.
like obvious. People were like, dude, you just did that.
Why are they not selling replicas of the Trump Sharpie?
I
You know
bet they
how much
are.
money they would be making?
I bet they are. Nice
well,
commie
the fact that
Sharpie.
I don't know about it shows
I bet
they're fucking
Putin's
up.
got one. He's probably got 3.
Yes, one in red, one in blue, and one in white for the colors of our flag. But
Look what my first president sent me.
I get listen. I get swords from some people. I get dog from Uzbekistan. But the Sharpie from Trump was the gift of all gifts. I will say this. Yeah, you got the Putin. Remember I sent you the Putin video with the dog, and the guy's like giving Putin a dog, and he's wailing it around and holding it by that fat on the neck. And Putin's a big dog lover, and he's like, no, whoa, and he goes and grabs it from the guy. He's like, enough of that, and he's like coddling the dog.
The thing that bothers me about Putin is that I would actually like him if he
Of
wasn't
course.
fucking with the U.S. He's a great character.
If he was the president of Denmark, we'd
I
be
mean, he's a cool
fine.
guy, and he stayed cool the whole time, and he's like kind of relatable, and he knows how to run shit.
The horse
He's a-
with no shirt on.
Yeah, I mean, he's an interesting dude.
He's fucking Rambo.
He's the world's most interesting man. That's
He certainly
fucking
is.
real shit.
So, but to finish up with the SharpieGate, because I even found this, it's like, I can't even believe we tried to pull this off. This is like meme fucking central material. So Trump takes the map that everyone has with the cone. The cone always has that white kind of stuff in it with the little black lines
yeah,
in
like
it.
the filler.
And yeah, and it's a filler of the cone. And then he just decides to draw a nose on it. And just to get enough of it into Alabama. To fucking
You know what's so funny too? It's like nobody's on Trump's team to help him with this. Like you would think a normal president would be like, "Yo, go get me one with a bigger cone," and he'd have a
Yeah, extend
professional
the
one
cone.
made. But Trump's got
How
like no
about-
help, so
That's
it's got
so
to just
funny.
mark
That's
it
the
himself.
first thing I thought of was, you can't go to Staples and get the fucking cone extended to look
Yeah,
real. He
I know.
literally was like, the people won't even care. Draw
Like,
a nose
what is the
on it.
presidential office budget? I'm sure we can afford a new
That's
fucking piece
so-
of poster board.
Listen, that's the more fucked up thing about all this. Not even that he lied. Not even that he's angry that he's like, no, Alabama was in the preliminary reports. Alabama was in there. He just can't back down.
There is a serious part of it too, though, because it is a felony. Nothing will ever happen, obviously, stupid felony. But also, they told other employees in the government, like, "Hey, you have to back him up on this." So that's like kind of like weird. You know, you have like this total bullshit thing. It's so obvious, and you go to the employees too, and you're like, "Hey, you got to back us up on this." I mean,
Pretty
it's just
crazy.
bad leadership.
We're going to go to our first break. You're listening to episode number 10. We're at the Space Coast Podcast Studios. Got Jesse.
Sponsored by Sharpie.
Sponsored by Sharpie. We'll get Sharpie on board. Get me a Trump Sharpie.
Ruthless Politics would like to thank all of our badass sponsors. SFL Media, media for the modern world. Check them out at sfl.media. Video God, the best viral video site online. Check them out at videogod.com. Pure Clear Hemp, premium CBD isolate. Check that out at pureclearhemp.com. And Tall Circuit Technology, home automation experts. Of course, our show's hosted by Space Coast Podcast, and a special thanks to them.
You're listening to Space Coast Podcast, home of the greatest podcasts on the Space Coast. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor or having your own show, email us at spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com.
Space Coast Podcast.
Talk hard!
All right. Back again, episode number 10. Back again, back in the high life again. You're listening to Trees over here and my buddy
Kid Chronic, Ruthless Politics, baby.
Ruthless Politics. How about this? Listen, it might seem like it's clickbait. It might seem like it's jailbait, but we're going to do a little more Epstein for you.
We've covered Epstein pretty well for the podcast.
People like Epstein.
We're Epstein experts.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much doused ourselves in the essence of Epstein, and I think that would make a fine cologne.
Oh, my God.
But I'll tell you
for
what.
pedophiles everywhere.
Right?
Essence
Every
of Epstein.
14-year-old girl
Yes.
will love you.
Yes.
Right? You smell like...
Smells like high school hallways.
High school hall.
Smells like Mean Girls, the movie.
If you want to smell like the quarterback. So Epstein, there's actually more news here, if you can believe it. And here's my first gripe, and then I'll let you chime in here. Somebody said this to me, and I think I'm pretty smart. It never crossed my mind until somebody said this to me. Where is Epstein buried? Where's the service? I know he's Jewish. Was he cremated? Jews, it's got to happen right away. You'll see a lot of Christian situations. It's a very drawn out thing. The Jews bury right away. It's a thing. I don't know how religious he was. They never touch on that, by the way. They don't touch his Jewishness at all, if you notice. But his last name is Epstein, so he's fucking oozing of it. But the point is if he's dead, where the fuck is this guy?
That's interesting. That is an interesting question because you would assume that the media would have found access to the funeral. But
who would show? Record, by the way?
Who would show to the funeral? Who
no,
would show?
No, I understand.
So there's
that.
probably no funeral. So maybe he's cremated and like his ashes are somewhere.
Isn't that on record?
Yeah, I guess it feeds the fire that the theory that he's still alive out there. That definitely feeds the fire that nobody's seen the body. What about the fact that he died in jail? You would think that they would post a picture. Like if you were a famous criminal and you died in jail, they would have that like gurney shot or like some shot of you. You would get that final shot. I mean, shit, they even almost gave us a picture of Osama bin Laden, Mm-hmm. So why didn't we get an Epstein shot of some sort, like some sort of morgue pic or something that would let the public go, okay, this motherfucker's dead?
Well, we're not going to get it. This is why there is a conspiracy
the
on
theme
Epstein.
for Epstein.
It doesn't
You're not
seem
gonna
to
get
make
it.
sense. We're also, you hear...
Can I tell you my beef about Epstein right now?
Yeah, please.
Okay, here's my beef with the Epstein story right now, where it is. Bill Gates is lying. Bill Gates is fucking lying.
Well, that's a whole other thing, yeah.
Bill Gates brought in Epstein to do some donations, and I guess what was happening is Epstein was using the MIT Media Lab. He was getting donations for them, and he was bringing in a lot of donations, so the Media Lab was happy to kind of cover up that they were coming from Epstein and just take the money. I guess they needed it. And Epstein liked the deal because it was helping Epstein revive his reputation, so he could go back around to all the billionaires and say, hey, I'm working with this Media Lab. You got to get in it. And it's the kind of thing that Bill Gates would be interested in, and so I think Bill Gates made some sort of donation there. And Bill Gates should come clean about like whatever happened there, but instead he's launched a whole media campaign, said he wasn't involved with Epstein, says he didn't have Epstein making donations for him.
He's lying.
And he's fucking lying.
And the gentleman from MIT that was tied into this, and we can track his name, nobody really gives a shit anyways, but he stepped down. He is now, he's like Alex Acosta, he has felt the heat of the Epstein fire and even having his name tied in with him. So the way the story really goes, like you said, is Bill Gates worked with Epstein. He funneled $2 million to MIT.
With no small amount of money.
Not a lot, not at all.
That's $2 million.
And it was done quietly.
A hell of a lot more than those college girls did. You know, I mean, the women trying to get their daughters in. You know, that's more money than they gave.
Epstein worked with Bill Gates to funnel $2 million for unspecified projects and donations to a research lab. It was covered up. Epstein appeared to serve as an intermediary between the lab and wealthy donors. So the bottom line is, yes, why do these two know each other? Why does Bill Gates need Epstein's money? He doesn't.
Exactly.
But it's a buddy.
Or his advice or any of that. They were
Any of
some
that.
sort of friends. There was something going on there. Hopefully nothing more for Bill Gates' sake. But the fact that he's trying to cover it up makes me think there is something more there. And I wouldn't be surprised if more comes out about Bill Gates and Epstein.
Let me ask you a simple question about the type of friends people should keep, whatever. Let's say you had a buddy, and you know he's not a lifelong friend. You have a buddy who does something really stupid, and he's out one night and he smears shit all over his face in front of 500 people. Okay, right? It'd be something now that looks really bad, right? Would you ever hang out with that person again in public? Would you keep friends probably with that person?
No, most of my friends are relationships I've built over long periods of time. And most people that know me know I'm an easy disqualifier. So I get rid of people in my life for like breathing
all
the
the more.
way.
So you wouldn't be friends with an Epstein. You would know because Epstein has this shit smear on him.
No, not necessarily, because let me tell you why. Just because I don't like embarrassing friends doesn't mean I don't have friends that are fucking nightmare or criminals or whatever, right? So you have all kinds of friends. Most of my friends are like childhood friends, and maybe they got a DWI or something in their life. I don't forget about about them. If they get busted with weed, I don't forget about them. The Epstein one is just particularly bad because it's sexual assault of young girls, and so he's not really welcome around families, and so there's a bad look with hanging with Epstein.
Yeah, maybe I used a bad example, but I guess the point is that Bill Gates should know better, and all of these people should know better, especially after he did the jail time.
Here, Prince Andrew, right? It came out recently that Prince Andrew went into a rage at royal aides who invited Epstein, because they thought he was a friend of Prince Andrew, to his daughter's 18th birthday party.
So what does that say?
So imagine that. So Prince Andrew knew that Epstein wasn't safe around his daughter's friends who were about 18 years old, but yet he was still friends with him. So I mean, I'm just saying that
he'll partake, but he don't want that guy around. Yeah,
dude, the evidence around Prince Andrew is
even
oh
Trump,
my God, it's on fire.
Even Trump probably was cool with this guy at a certain point. You saw the video where they're just standing there watching the chicks. You know what I mean? And Trump's like, "Hey, look at her. Yeah, I fucked that." So they're cool, but at some point, Epstein's not that cool because it's starting to get too creepy.
You know what else too happens sometimes? Sometimes you have a big group of friends, like a college campus type of friends, or like this group of billionaires or whatever. And some of them are good friends, and some of them are outer friends, and some of them are just the weirdos that hang out. And that's like what makes the party or the eclectic group. And that's kind of what I feel like was hanging out here. I don't think that Bill Gates thought Epstein was the best dude in the world. I just thought they all thought he was like the weirdo pervy friend.
Well, here you got to remember one thing you left out. There was one key word. A lot of people use each other. So especially big money people and people of influence and power. People do it in high school. They use each other just because he works at fucking McDonald's.
Yeah, and they don't own private islands and planes and shit.
Exactly. And if you just so happen to like girls too, he's got you covered there. Plenty of these guys, especially the science guys, who they can't really tie into the chicks, they went on record as saying, we would sit down at a meeting and we're here to talk about some serious shit. He can't focus on anything. He's all over the place. He's talking to this one, talking to that one. They said they started to realize this guy's like a mental midget. He just plays the role very well. But he always would offer them, hey, you want a massage? Or there's a couple, I got 3 girls over here. And they would say how he would hang out with them like a harem. It was almost to make himself look like he was a pimp.
He showed up at MIT with 3 young girls. Yeah. And MIT people were uncomfortable about it. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
So
yeah, can you believe that?
Yeah. I mean, come on. So Epstein was doing this the whole time.
He
From
used
before
it as an
arrest,
interesting tool.
after arrest, his whole time he was the same person.
Yeah. So, there is the MIT tie-in. There's a Bill Gates tie-in. It doesn't seem to end. And then the other part about
Epstein,
a
politician that hasn't been linked to Epstein? Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. Well, hold on. Hit the brakes here. The reason why is because 14-year-old chicks don't like bloody eyes. But here's the thing let me just say this before we jump into Biden, because we're going to go into the politics. We'll jump really hard into politics and Joe Biden's bloody eye. There's another strange happening. As you know, Ghislaine Maxwell, folks, still has not been brought in, captured, found.
She's in the USA.
She's somewhere.
Yeah.
But this lady knows a lot of shit. Nobody's going after her, and none of the media is questioning that. But the other fella, the Brunel, Jean Luc Brunel, the model, scout, playboy in France who helped probably sleep with these chicks. He's being charged in France for it. Definitely helping with procuring models and turning them over to Epstein and maybe letting them know, these guys can help you, this, and that. He has disappeared. They waited like 3 weeks to get him, and what do you know? He has disappeared without a trace, according to France.
Hey, it's easy to disappear when you got $1 billion. Throw your cell phone in the lake and take off.
Yeah, pretty amazing. And it just gets stranger and stranger and stranger. And the only thing that'll make it
Anybody
stranger,
associated with Epstein is in deep, deep hiding right now.
Yeah.
Deep hiding.
But nobody's getting in trouble, folks. Keep that in mind.
I think that you have to figure that the reason they can't get in trouble is because they have information on people that are high up in the government. So the government is like, let's not turn over these stones. We'll just leave them.
Listen, folks, we're not going to say that we called it, but you heard on this show, and I'm not sure what episode it was because we talked so much about this, but we said pretty much they'll let this die down. We had a Dorian since. We had all sorts of news since. Football is on now, so no guy gives a fuck about this. College football, nobody gives a shit. They let it die down. Nothing has happened. They killed him. They didn't kill him. He's gone. No Ghislaine Maxwell. Nobody is getting in trouble. Not Donald Trump, not Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew. Nobody. It happened exactly the way they fucking planned it.
There was 2 presidents involved and a prince. I think all the countries said, greater good. Let's protect the image of the countries. Let's protect the image of these presidents and these big leaders. And we're just going to kind of let this one go. And that's exactly what happened here. I mean, I've never seen a more professional government snuff out of a story. I mean, I don't know what parts the government did, if they killed him or whatever, but the whole organization of just making this go away was expert.
Well,
expert level shit.
And we're going to go to break on this note. You can cue that up, Jesse. This is kind of why my friend Pat, this is why I am a conspiracy theorist, because I know these people.
Well,
are
this
in
one was a
cahoots.
good one, and you're right. We called everything out about this. We were on this from top
I
to
know
bottom.
that they can get together and do
killed this
this.
story.
Now imagine they're doing this with other shit or more serious shit. It's scary, but yeah, they are. In
Yeah, this
cahoots
is
in
just
doing
what they
this.
do with their sex life.
Yeah, so there you go, folks. We'll have more Epstein next week.
All right. This is Doug Monda,
This is Karen Monda.
And Chris Hadaway.
and we're the host of Survive, the new podcast brought to you by the Survive First Foundation, a nonprofit organization assisting first responders and their families in need of mental health support due to the lifestyle of being a first responder. So, Chris, tell us what we're going to have.
We're coming to you from retired and active law enforcement officers as well as their spouses to discuss the responder life.
Don't forget, this is an unedited and raw podcast, so we need your interactive suggestions and advice to help us help others.
So find us live on our Survive First Facebook page and join in the conversation, or find us on demand on Spotify, iTunes, or anywhere you listen to podcasts from the Space Coast Podcast Network to you.
You're listening to Space Coast Podcast, home of the greatest podcasts on the Space Coast. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor or having your own show, email us at spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com.
Space Coast Podcast.
Talk hard!
Space Coast Podcast, talk hard. All right. You know what? I just did that so hard that I could have made my eye bloody.
Oh man, what is it called? Hold on, I wrote it down. Subconjunctional hemorrhage.
Subconjunctional hemorrhage.
Sounds serious.
Sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Who the fuck wants one of those?
Sounds like he's too old to be
Let me
president.
move this thing here. So let's get into the politics part. We talked a lot about news and Sharpies.
Hi, Mr. Biden. I'm your doctor, and we have your results here. And they say you're too old to be fucking president.
Here's the bad news. You have bloody eyes, and you're not even Jesus.
And you're not sure what room you're in of your own house.
Listen, we have Joe Biden still the front runner, folks, for the Democratic
How
Party.
can he be? You know why? Because Trump attacked him. I wish Trump didn't attack him in the beginning, because Trump attacked him and blew up his numbers, and now this guy can't lose. Ugh.
He has not really given up his lead, and the one quick time he did, he gained it back. Now, what has happened is that Warren seems to be firmly in number 2. She's jumped Bernie, but nobody is making ground except Andrew Yang has now put himself into what could be the top 5, and we'll get to him in a second, and we'll talk all about Biden's eye. But just to go real quick over where the Democrats stand, Biden's still hanging around 30%. Warren's at 18%, Bernie right under 18%, and then Kamala at 7%. Buttigieg still hovers around 4 or 5. And if you can believe it, Beto O'Rourke has fallen completely out of the landscape, and Yang and Booker are still holding in at the end. But let's talk more about that bloody eyeball that none of the media wanted to talk about. Not even Fox really touched on it too much.
I mean, it's weird. It's just weird and it's gross, but it's just a series of gaffes and errors and mistakes that have gone on with Joe Biden's campaign already that just make us terrified. Because here's the problem. Once you pick Joe Biden and he becomes your guy, that's it. That's who we've got. And if he has a series of mistakes, or one even bigger mistake that this leads up to, or he just keels over and half dies in the middle of the fucking presidential debates, then that's it. We've got Donald Trump for another 4 years, folks. We can't risk it with this dude. We cannot risk it with this dude. It'd be like taking a car with 200,000 miles and a clunky-ass engine and being like, you know what? I'm going to drive it to California. You're not going to make it.
They always say how you're right about that, and they always say how important it is to have your vice presidential candidate to be presidential or president worthy because of these sorts of situations. That's probably more important than ever with Joe Biden.
Oh my God, who is the vice going to be with that guy? Because that vice has got a solid shot.
Yeah,
all you have to do is like blow on him as he walks by in the hall. You're like, oh, I'm president. I got him.
We made a joke, folks.
Just cough on him.
Yeah, you know what I mean. he'll have pneumonia in 3 days.
Yeah.
Good immune system, I'm sure, on this guy. One thing for sure, he doesn't have Dick Cheney's doctors. But here's the thing. This guy, we talked about this when we saw the Mueller report, and then we made a joke about I'd love to play cards with these two guys. I don't know who's worse, but Joe Biden is really messing up a lot on the campaign trail. He doesn't seem to have any knowledge or information. He really is just a figurehead and one of these fake politicians that he almost self-admitted. He's like, I'm here for name recognition, not my policies, nothing else. I hung around with Barack Obama. I played with the black guy. I'm cooler than these other people. Okay, that's great. You're vice president. Here's where he has the shot, my friend, because the black community overwhelmingly supports Joe Biden over Elizabeth Warren, over Bernie Sanders, and Pete Buttigieg. Forget it. They may go Andrew Yang
you know
if
what
he's
else?
forced on them.
They don't follow politics, a lot of them, that well that they're going to know about the little Biden gaffes that just are like a quick blip on
Or
the news
care.
screen. Here's some of the funny ones that Biden said recently, though.
Yeah.
He said he speculated during a speech on how awful Obama's assassination would have been.
Yes.
Like,
What
why
a
the
great
fuck
topic.
would you go there?
Yeah.
and then okay,
it
and
was
then,
like a hypothetical. Like,
yeah.
what would have happened?
And then he called
yeah.
Donald Trump Donald Hump.
Donald Hump.
Hilarious. That's going to be
Freudian
newsworthy.
slip.
Yeah. And then he said his supports for women's rights made some people think he was gay.
Yeah.
I mean, he just says like goofy, odd shit.
That's something from South Park. You know what I mean?
And so, I don't think that those things will keep him out of office. But I think that I wonder if the African-American support is in polling and if they'd really go out to vote for him. And I wonder if there's a calculation in there, and that's why Trump is like pushing for Biden. Trump wants Biden.
Yes,
and
he does.
Why? Why does Trump want Biden? Is it because he's an idiot? I don't think so. I think they know something. And Republicans, they know that they're a minority party, so they go and they do the extra research and they find the ins and the outs, and they may have something on Biden. So I am not on Team Biden at all. I think he's too old. It's too old, and there's too many mistakes, and there's too much smoke already. There's going to be fire, and it's not good.
Donald Trump, you're right, is salivating for Biden. I think he would have a field day with him. I think those would be embarrassing for Biden because he would mess up under the heat. I think Trump would love to go after Elizabeth Warren, but those won't be quite as fun. The Pocahontas thing will get real old. He can't insult her about something that really no one gives a shit about anymore.
And Trump
anyways.
is already having trouble with suburban women voters.
Right,
So those
so
are
that
kind of
wouldn't
the
hurt-
people that
yeah,
he's
that would
pissed
hurt
off.
with
So if
Warren.
he goes attacking Warren the whole time,
I
that's
agree.
not going to help.
It's not that good of a strategy. And then anybody else, I think Trump would be ready for. But yeah, I think he salivates for Biden. I think it's going to be Biden.
Because Biden, he can have the total gloves off.
Well,
He can say whatever he wants about Biden. Everyone's like, hey, it's a fair fight. Two old white guys.
Listen, let me tell you, if people hate politicians and they hate the way everything's gone and you hate America and you hate all this shit, you should hate Joe Biden. This guy's a 50-plus year fucking political hack. That's all he's done. You know how rich this fucking guy is? If you go and look into his fucking connections with his son in China, this guy has played the system, folks. There's nothing admirable about this guy. He's every reason why Trump is in office. He is the swamp. He just is kind of funny and old, but fuck all that, man. This
Well,
guy
that's
is
how all of these politicians are.
Yeah, but this is the
though.
problem.
They're all like that, and they're all rich. You're not going to
But
get poor
Obama
politicians.
wasn't.
People want poor politicians.
Obama's
It's not gonna
rich
happen.
now.
Yeah, Obama's rich now, but I think that when you get in office, they throw so much money at you in so many different ways. It's hard not to get rich. You know?
Listen,
and he's
I
been
agree.
in so
And if you do
long.
it for 50
do you know that
years-
he had 2 brain aneurysms like 12 years ago?
I did not.
Yeah,
So
that's
there you
what's
go.
really
So there you
terrifying.
go.
So like, forget all the bullshit.
You know how
this
many
guy's
brain
literally
aneurysms
had.
Trump's had?
He's literally had. I
Zero.
don't know how Trump's so healthy. Somebody needs
How
to
is he
figure
so
that
healthy?
out.
Anthony Scaramucci, your buddy, just the other day called him a
The
fat
mooch.
slob and disgusting.
He follows me on Twitter.
Goes, yes, you said. He is going after Trump personally because he's just such a cute little froggy looking guy.
Well,
isn't he?
Trump
He's
attacked
so
his
small.
wife, and now they're in like a giant
Well,
like it's weird. It's like
Well,
giant,
I think they're
boxing
babies.
match between like media outlets.
Well,
like Trump goes on Twitter and Mooch goes on CNN, and
what's
Trump
funny
says something
about
else,
them
and
both-
Mooch goes on Fox.
Neither of them are connected to the mob for real, but you know Trump acts like it. Michael Cohen already told you he was like a capo. But Scaramucci's Italian, and he wishes he was in that. He's just a clean-cut guy that's not. But he kind of, he does it up a little bit. If you want to see a good one, watch him and Chris Cuomo get together and really
Oh, because they're
Italian it
total
up.
buddies.
Oh,
I
my God.
wonder what's in for Mooch's career after this. So, after the Trump years, whatever, like, where does Mooch go from here? Because he has kind of made a name for himself.
I don't think
but
he
he's not
goes-
a politician, so
No.
it's not in politics. I wonder if he gets like a show
Well,
or something.
Here's what's going to happen. Well, they tried to give him a show. Him and Michael Avenatti went on Colbert and did like a little running audition. That was going to be a CNN
Yo,
show.
I bet you wonder where's Avenatti right now?
He's
is he
laying
in
low
jail?
as fuck.
I mean, is he
He's
waiting
out.
to go to jail?
Well, he's got a trial.
He's
got to
be scared.
Well, Avenatti's
Real
going to prison.
scared. Yeah.
You know what happened with Avenatti? First of all, don't go fuck with Donald Trump if you're dirty as fuck.
Yeah,
And people
so
that just
dumb.
digged in and found out, wow, you owe the IRS. You fucking burn everybody. You're Donald Trump on this little level.
He had a guy who was basically either a para or a quadriplegic, and the guy got a huge settlement, millions and millions of dollars. And Avenatti told him, hey, listen, your settlement hasn't come in yet, but I know you need money, so I'm going to loan you like $2,000 a month.
Oh,
and then
lender.
Avenatti just kept spending the money. He bought Porsche race cars, dude, all kinds of crazy shit, clothes, everything. So he literally was
He's
just
a
the
dick.
most unethical lawyer in the world, and he ripped off a dude who'd had a horrible accident.
He is the quintessential slime ball.
Such a
Even
slime
Stormy Daniels has nothing positive to say about this guy. He ripped her off. She was literally still signing autographs at a
And then
Cincinnati
she lost her
peep
case.
show.
He lost the case.
He lost the case where Trump wanted the money back. He's like, you're paying my legal bills too,
Yep.
you fucking what? So Avenatti, bad lawyer, bad guy, slime ball. Scaramucci, though, thinks he's pretty cool. Want to do a show with him. They're obviously not going to have a show anymore. But, yeah, that went off the rails. Another thing about politics, let's hit on. We talked about Elizabeth Warren. Guess what, folks? Now, you heard me mention this on the last podcast, and you like the idea. I listen to H.A. Goodman. He's just a pundit kind of guy on the internet. He's a writer. He's written for Huffington Post, some other shit. Big Bernie guy. Now is a Trump guy. And he is adamant that Hillary Clinton is getting into this. And he's been saying it for a year now that she's going to backdoor in. I painted the picture to you that I think it's perfect. Like a football team, you don't play anybody in the preseason for the 4 weeks. No criticisms, no getting hurt, no bumps, no bruises, no nothing. And you slide right in at the end. Now, Biden, the only way that's going to happen, she will not run against Biden. He has to drop out for this to happen. So make that clear, folks. If this happens, it's got to be a 1-2 domino. But there is a chance, and we're seeing her now rallying with Warren. She's got to be in the fucking spotlight. Hillary Clinton now teaming up with Elizabeth. Why?
Here's where I disagree with you on that one, okay?
ahead.
So first of
And
all,
why are they together? Tell me
First of
that.
all, I would fucking love that. There's nothing I would love to do more than to shove Hillary Clinton down the throat of every Republican in America. I would fucking love to do that. It would be great. God, that would
that'd be
good.
a civil
Let
war.
me just enjoy that
Yes.
thought for 1
Think
second.
about that for a second.
Yeah, that was great. So, obviously, that would be amazing. But
You need
Hillary,
some Jergens.
let me give you a perfect example. So, I'm talking to this girl. I have this great girl I talk to, and so we're talking about politics, and she goes in about how Hillary is like, has all these bad stuff about her, just like Trump. And so I thought to myself, in the middle of this conversation with this nice person, can I dissect all the propaganda the Russians and the Republicans have thrown at Hillary for the past 8 years because they knew she was going to be president? It's because Putin was mad that she meddled in his election to get rid of him. Is there any way that I can talk to this normal person who isn't like totally engaged in politics and explain to them, listen, this is mostly propaganda. She is the best pay-for-play politician, but is not really a criminal, is not really killing people. And I just didn't even have the conversation. I'm just like, well, yeah, I guess. So it's just the Russians have successfully tainted Hillary, and the Republicans have successfully tainted Hillary. Now, I hate it because it's unjust and it's not right. But even me, a big Hillary supporter, won't take the time out of their day to fix somebody's head because the propaganda is so heavy.
You don't think Hillary hurt herself a little bit with her
of
actions?
course. She's no
Not just
perfect
the people
person.
reporting?
Yeah, and of course,
server
women
in
don't
your
like her
bathroom?
because she stayed with Bill. And
Sure.
there's all kinds of different things.
I don't mean that. I mean political shit.
No, yeah, but that hurt her
Benghazi.
politically. That's why a lot of women, I think, didn't come out and vote for her.
Sure.
But here's the thing. Elizabeth Warren is organized right now. And yes, she has a Pocahontas thing, but she's not nearly as tainted as the Clintons. So I don't see why Elizabeth
Not at
Warren would settle down and let Hillary take the shot at possibly losing again when Elizabeth Warren did that last time and Elizabeth Warren saw what happened. Hillary lost, right? So there's no way that Hillary's going to get or Elizabeth Warren will take a backdoor to Hillary. There's no way. Elizabeth Warren is on a roller coaster. I mean, she is steaming for like a steam train.
I will say that. You just made a good point. She would be playing a Marco Rubio stab in the fucking back if Hillary somehow jumped in this race late and fucked Elizabeth Warren over, who's really riding pretty high here. Definitely a solid number 2 behind Biden. And if something happens with Biden, she does step into the number 1.
It's Elizabeth Warren's election to win, folks. Listen, if you bet on a horse and you have a horse race and your horse is in 3rd place and it's starting to come up into the big part of the race, the last lap, guess what? That's exactly where you fucking want to be. You want to be exactly where she is. She has all the energy behind her. She has tons of money behind her. She's very organized. Women will come out to vote for her. She's a consumer advocate, so people will feel safe with her, and she's a perfect person to prosecute all these idiots that need to be prosecuted right now. So I am firmly in Elizabeth Warren's camp right now. I liked Harris before, but Harris just ran a weak campaign. So it's
she's
all
a
about
liar,
it's
and
all
she's a
about Warren.
flip-flopper.
It's all
Yeah.
about Warren right now for
You
me.
lied about pot. You put a bunch of people in jail for pot, and then you get on a fucking radio show because Charlemagne the God wants to know if you smoke pot and if you listen to Tupac. Like anyone should give a flying fuck who really votes for people. If that's a prerequisite to you getting voted for, we're all fucking fucked. because Trump didn't do either, by the way, and so there's that.
Trump could use to smoke a little weed.
Yeah, he probably could. But he likes McDonald's more. But the thing is that Kamala is also just a lot. I mean, what a hypocrite. You know
Do
what I
you
mean?
think that Texas and North Carolina will vote for Warren? Because they say that Texas and North Carolina are in play. Now, they say that all the time, but it seems like there's a growing Hispanic population there. Beto did great there, and Beto did great with white voters, not just with the Hispanic voters.
Listen, there's a problem.
These states are churning.
There's a problem.
I think that they might appeal to Elizabeth Warren might appeal to them.
Well, let me answer that in two ways. First of all, you're right. This was going to be our next topic here was Texas going blue. It's definitely purple. It's falling into that Florida territory, folks. So if you are, a Republican, your GOP, be very scared because if Texas turns, they don't need to fuck with the Electoral College. There will never be another Republican president ever again. And then we'll get to North Carolina in a second because North Carolina is on the map because of this a vacant seat, a congressional seat that should easily go Republican, and it's not. And I believe
Because
that vote
he
might
cheated.
even be tonight.
He cheated, but we'll go into that.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
like
you may know
right
where
now. It's like happening right
It's
around
literally,
right around.
right? I think it's today. So that's a huge, pay attention to that, folks. That's a huge story because that could be the bellwether for what happens for North Carolina. Trump won North Carolina by 12 points. They fully expect him to do it again. It is not a gimme. It is not a gimme. But let me just say this about Texas. The thing is that you got a lot of Californians moving in. You have a lot of Hispanics moving in. Hispanics can go both ways. They tend to lean Democrat. Let's say it goes 70-30. Some maybe more conservative, but still 70-30. Texas is on the brink. It may not happen in 2020, but the Democrats aren't worried about that. If it happens in 2024 and ad infinitum, they're happy.
Yeah.
If it happens in 2028 ad infinitum, they're
Listen,
happy. It ain't that far down the road.
Beto lost his election to Ted Cruz by 2.6%.
Barely. Way too close.
2.6%. And
Way
Ted
too close.
Cruz is like a stalwart in Texas.
Yeah, and Beto's a clown.
Yeah, exactly.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, and then also what they were saying is they've done like some math, and they said if Beto ran against Ted Cruz in a general, because more people come out in the general, the more population turnout would have put him in the seat.
That's entirely possible. As we know, those off-season elections have way less turnout. That's scary to know because now we're seeing Beto's presidential campaign. And again, I don't know how a loser for a Senate seat runs for president, but guess what? He's now playing in Bill de Blasio's fucking sandbox. It's failing. And he is a clown. I can't stand that guy. Like, when I look at Pete Buttigieg, I don't dislike him or can't stand him. I just don't support him over, who I like. But Beto and a lot of people,
I don't know where Beto goes
joke.
from here, but I think that Buttigieg has probably earned himself some sort of position in government. I think he'll definitely be picked up. I think Andrew Yang could be like a commerce secretary or something,
Well, it would be smart. I think whoever wins, because these two guys probably won't, should integrate these guys
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
some way.
Get their following.
Yeah, and Buttigieg, if he has, look, Buttigieg's first of all, they're both very young men. These guys are not over. They're going to make runs again. Joe Biden's ran many times. McCain's ran many times. Hillary's run many times. We know this isn't a one-time fucking deal for any of these people. They're young men. Buttigieg needs to get bigger. See, Andrew Yang's not a politician, so he's playing the businessman
If
card. It's different
Buttigieg
for
was a
him.
governor coming in, he would be a
better.
tough candidate.
His only problem is, unfortunately, his gayness for even some minority voters is not a turn on, and it's not something that's going to help him. He doesn't resonate with black voters because he had some racial incidents in South Bend, which happens to be a pretty kind of a black city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have this white young mayor, gay guy. The African-American community is not overwhelmingly pro-gay. You can go look that up. They just tend not to be. But the bottom line is they're not that warm on him, and he's going to need to capture
And that's
that
going to be
audience.
a tough relationship to build. You can see it's going to be.
It's hard. He'll never
He
win.
speaks very comfortably, but whenever he's in those situations, he looks uncomfortable.
He's also maybe a little too articulate and smart for some of not, and I don't mean this about black folks. I mean just the lower people that just like Biden because he's Biden.
Yeah, he speaks above the white collar,
He does.
the blue collar.
He's a sharp dude, and Beto's not. And Beto's all rambunctious, and he's all hyperbole. But Buttigieg gets up there, and he's very articulate and smart, and maybe too much so. He's not enough of a character. There's no character here.
But there is a bunch of characters in the whole Democratic primary here. So I think that the Democrats did good in putting all these characters out there because some resonate with some people, and the country was completely brainwashed by Russian propaganda. So it helped to get all of these liberal ideas out there to kind of wake some people the fuck up. So I think that this massive primaries we had with all these candidates is actually a good thing.
Yeah, the bottom line. Oh, and speaking of, on a side note, we're going to go to break in about 1 minute here. Speaking of primaries, how about all these states are like, we don't even need a fucking Republican primary. They're kind of bending to Trump. Trump kind of suggested it.
Yeah,
Like,
yep.
There's nobody even running against me. Don't waste the fucking money. And
I
they're
think
kind of
that-
looking at it like,
Well, Republicans are smart because they had these like kind of 3 broken candidates, and they're running them, and it's giving those candidates a chance to rebuild their names. So they're rebuilding these broken candidates as like anti-Trumpers, so it makes them kind of palatable. And then if Trump wins, great, you've got him. If Trump doesn't win, then you're like, oh well, we tried to primary him. We're still decent Republicans. You know what I'm saying? And in the meantime, you rehab these 3 broken souls you got because Republicans can't let go of a politician.
some of these people like Anthony Scaramucci with his Joe Walsh shit, they're delusional. There is no more Republican Party. We talked about this on the last podcast about how the Democratic Party's fractured. The Republican Party is also fractured as well. You have your rhinos, like your John McCain's and your Paul Ryans and all that. But the Trump voters, they don't like these motherfuckers. They don't like Mitch McConnell.
And you still have Tea Party guys floating around.
Yeah, and those Tea Party guys were your Trump. Those are the people that became your Trumpies. They were the fringe. They're the QAnons. They're the fringe. They're the gun nuts. So what you started to see was it's a Trump party. And I got news for you. I said this before. There is no Republican that can legitimately run. And Jesse, if you want to cue up that music, we'll go out on this note. Go research it. Don Jr. already making waves about running in 2024. That's why they're calling
man, that guy's a twerp.
a
Get
Trump
the fuck out of here.
dynasty
Don Jr.
on its way. Donnie Jr.
You're listening to Space Coast Podcast, home of the greatest podcasts on the Space Coast. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor or having your own show, email us at spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com.
Space Coast Podcast.
Talk hard!
Ruthless Politics would like to thank all of our badass sponsors. SFL Media, media for the modern world. Check them out at sfl.media. Video God, the best viral video site online. Check them out at videogod.com. Pure Clear Hemp, premium CBD isolate. Check that out at pureclearhemp.com. And Tall Circuit Technology, home automation experts. Of course, our show's hosted by Space Coast Podcast, and a special thanks to them.
Okay.
Show number 10.
Okay. Yeah, number 10, the Aluminum Show. We wear tinfoil hats. Well, one of us does, and I only do it when I'm on Chatterbait. The girls love it. They always ask me, what is that hat you have on your head? And I let them know that it makes the climax all the better. We have about 10 minutes left. Yeah, right.
All right. Well, I want to cover the story that's
Tell
kind of
me.
grinding my gear right now, or
And
whatever. Okay.
By the way, I'm looking at this. This happened in 2017. This happened a couple years ago.
No, it just happened.
All right, go ahead,
Well,
tell
it
me.
happened a couple years ago, but the story just
The
came out
story's
now.
breaking
So
now.
that's the story's breaking now.
Yes.
So basically, what happened is this: the CIA had a guy that was in Russian government, and they turned him, they flipped him. Well, guess what happened? This guy becomes a fast riser in Russian government. Boom, boom, boom. He's going up the ranks. Soon, he has access to Putin and sees Putin on a regular basis. This guy was listed as the top CIA asset. He was literally their most valuable asset in Russia. And what happened is when Trump came into office, they felt the CIA did not trust Trump at all. They thought Trump would out the spy or get him killed. So what they basically did is they pulled the spy home and they brought him to this place, which exists, the Defector Resettlement Center. Our government has a Defector Resettlement Center, and it took this defector, and he's in hiding now, and nobody knows where he is. Now, this defector was so goddamn secret, they didn't even put the information about him in Obama's daily briefings because they didn't want anybody who reads the briefings to get it. Obama would get sealed letters with information that this particular guy would turn over. And so that's how serious this is. So listen, you may say that Trump's not a traitor, but if you don't think that Putin has leverage over him, then you're crazy.
Yeah. You hear that? Yeah. Oh, it's my thing here. That's
Yeah,
again.
no, there's
Go ahead,
no
I'm
doubt
sorry.
about it, dude. Putin has leverage over Trump. I think that he got loans from Deutsche Bank, the oligarchs co-signed, something like that. There's something like that out there. There's leverage. Because if the CIA felt that they had to pull their top spy from Russia because Trump would out him, then that speaks fucking volumes, people. And then you have to ask yourself, what is the CIA and the FBI going to do with this president when he gets out of office? So I hate to tell all you Trump supporters, but listen, you're in for a rude awakening, my friends.
You think that all this, listen, if it's going to happen after his presidency, if it's going to happen at all, with any Russian.
I mean, if he cheats his presidency, he stays in longer. If a Republican gets elected after him and pardons him, maybe, but he has state charges in SDNY where Weisselberg is snitching right now. You hear stories like this about him being a traitor. I mean, there is no way that there's not a culmination at the end of this story.
Well, you say, though, that it kind of looks negative toward Russia, that this guy is admitting, like, yeah, we had a fucking spy in here and we got him out right under your nose.
Well, you have to wonder, too, if maybe there's another spy in there and that's why they're trying to pretend like he's gone, or what games the CIA is playing, you know? So there's that, you know, there's that espionage aspect to it always.
You know what there also is maybe he wasn't a spy at all, but you plant the seed that he was. You tell them that he was. You say something like that, so you make them think that. You make them question themselves. You know, a lot of people do that. They plant lies or stories into people's heads.
There was questions originally of whether or not he was a double agent when he first came on.
I think a lot of them are.
They were worried that he was feeding U.S. information, but they were able to somehow vet that he was the real deal.
I think that's very common. I think the United States alone plays the double agent
I also
card with
think
a lot
that
of things
Russia is not that rich and not that great of a place to live. So I think that, like, honestly, 75% of Russian officials spill to the U.S. because we give them cash.
This is unfortunate. Money talks, and yes, when you have in a culture that has a lot of people that don't have money, that's why they call it like kind of a mob-run situation.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really run amok. It's not a narco state, but it almost is like a mafia state with how
it's
they
like we're
going to
give you a lot of freedom, so you have escorts. You can pretty much do whatever you want. You can hack whatever you want if you cut the government in on whatever you steal. The whole thing in Russia is really bizarre, but the people there seem to be cool with it. I mean, they're like, yeah, we don't have a lot, but we got a lot of freedom, and we don't really have to vote because the election doesn't matter. So it's just bizarre.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to bother the Russian people that much. There is a big...
Do you think Americans could live under one president their whole life without freaking flipping out?
No, only because we're so used to being able to, quote unquote, vote and place the person in. We really don't place the person in. That's decided for us, but it gives us kind of an illusion of it. No, we could never do that. That's what makes America so great. That is supposed to be the difference maker here, right?
Yeah.
That's the difference maker, that we're supposedly really
the
in control of
peaceful
this.
exchange of powers.
What we're not understanding is that once you elect democratically these people in that you think are doing for you, you then realize they're not. And that's when you realize
and they
that
get
you're
easily
not
corrupted by big corporations with large amounts of money.
And here lies the problem. And jobs after, where you get into the public sector after, and this and that. So that's that to rush that up. We're going to wrap up the show right here. It's I call it the little Me Too corner. This is the Me Too movement
Me Too corner. You're running the Me Too corner?
I'm going to run the Me Too corner.
Rich.
This is, isn't it? Well, this is all about the ladies, you know. This is the ladies' man. And I got my Cavassier. Let's talk about it, ladies. Ladies in the news. So I have 4 little tidbits I want you to comment on. Number 1, Rosario Dawson. She is
fake relationship.
Yeah.
Was that too soon?
Yeah. Rosario, right? Rosario Dawson is dating Cory Booker. And apparently she was asked very recently, are you going to endorse Cory for his presidency? And not only did Rosario Dawson not do that, her exact quote was, and I find this kind of interesting, was, regardless of Cory, I wasn't going to be behind any particular candidate this election. This was at Variety's Toronto Film Festival. I just want to be behind the electorate.
I don't even know what the fuck that means, behind the electorate. What, are you going to fuck the public?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that
but
means either.
Here's the thing about that, okay? Cory Booker's always been suspected of being LGBTQ. He's never really had a wife or a girlfriend, and he's a very famous, handsome man. You would assume that somebody would want to be with this guy.
He has a lot of gay
And
rumors.
then all of a sudden he's running for president, and boom, pops this like celebrity crush thing. But I encourage anyone to go on Google and search Cory Booker and Rosario, and you won't find any pictures. There's one like picture where they look like awkward together. So
sham.
I just wonder if the whole thing is put together for politics, and then that would explain her answer to this question.
Yeah, she went on to say this election is very critical. A lot of the themes that are touched on are really narratively critical for us to talking about in a wider space so that people can come to the table and see where their position is and see where they can be active. We need all hands on deck.
Okay, she makes no sense.
So,
she must be
that
going to
was
vote for
psychobabble.
Marianne Williamson.
Yeah, that was psychobabble.
Marianne Williamson, we found your supporter.
Okay, so that takes care of the Rosario Dawson. Check that off for the Me Too movement there.
Peace out.
Here's another one. Here is Todd and Sarah Palin calling it quits.
Oh, no one dumps my Palin.
Nobody dumps my Palin. Well, guess what?
She was like our first hot lady politician.
They actually made a porno themed around her called Nailin' Palin. I don't know if you know that.
Do you think she got a cut of that?
Well,
because she's the kind of lady
no,
that would
she
sign
should've
off
sued
on that.
over it. Well, the porn industry is very smart at what they call porn parodies, and
Yeah.
they're allowed to get away with this stuff. So it was a parody, just like anybody can dress up like her. And I guess she wasn't Sarah Palin in the video. She was, Sarah Pauline. And
That's how
so
they get into search results.
They get around it somehow. I think it was Lisa Ann played her, one of the more famous ones, whatever. And people went and saw it because you're right. Sarah Palin was one of the more attractive women that's really ever been in politics. I mean, Elizabeth Warren isn't exactly
Todd
that.
Palin divorced Sarah. So the guy filed for divorce. They put their initials on the divorce, so nobody knew, but some like clever journalists were able to like put it all together with like their kids' ages and shit and figured out it was them. And in the divorce, it cites incompatibility of temperament, and that he finds it impossible to live as husband and wife.
Can you help me out? What is incompatibility of temperament?
I think it means that like they're a mean
fight
asshole.
a lot. Yeah. Someone's
like if I ever get divorced, it'll definitely say that on there.
Yeah,
Right.
Todd. Yeah, Todd.
This motherfucker's incompatibility of temperament is through the roof, Your Honor.
Where's my fucking Labatt's, Tad?
Yeah.
Crack my Labatt's. So that's the other one.
But they were also married, bro. I think it was like 31 years.
They were for a long time.
That's a long time.
It seemed like they were pretty happy.
Give it up to him. Todd, man, Todd's a handsome man, too.
Todd is going to do fine. Yeah, if that asshole.
Get out there, Todd.
If that Todd Gosselin or the Kate Gosselin's husband went off, this guy's going to do just fine.
Oh, yeah. I hope Todd gets like a model soon.
Now, the third one is my favorite and your favorite. The lady with the tough turban, Ilhan Omar, she just takes it from every angle, and nothing happens to this woman. She never gets in trouble. There's campaign finance stuff. There's questions about the legitimacy of her husband and who she has 2 husbands and kids and this and that. So the new thing is that she has a gentleman by the name of Tim Minette. Tim Minette is a white fella, and he looks like the typical guy that we would see at Starbucks all the time using the free Wi-Fi. And Tim Minette is also part of her cabinet. I think she pays him $350,000. There he is there. He kind of, not a very attractive guy. He looks like he could be in like
he's got like the smart guy
band.
Glasses.
Yes, he's definitely smart. And they work together, but Tim Minette's wife decided, I am going to file for divorce. And that is what she's done. Her name is Beth Jordan Minette. And she specifically used Ilhan Omar's name under the reason for why, the adultery, for why she is filing for divorce. Is Ilhan Omar just maybe not a good person, Muslim shit aside and politics aside?
Oh,
maybe
man,
she's
this is
just
a tough
bitch.
question. So when she first came on, I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. More diversity. But she has a lot of problems. She says a lot of really dumb shit. She embarrasses Democrats all the time. She has stupid opinions. She's not professional. She's not prepared all the time. So it's kind of rough, and then you see this stuff, and there has been a lot of swirling stories about her past and finances and how she got over to the country and all sorts of stuff. So it's hard to know what is bullshit political propaganda.
Just too much smoke,
and
right?
what's real. But there seems to be way too much smoke for there nothing to stick. So I fully assume that she will be in some sort of trouble eventually. I just don't know exactly what part of all this stuff that they're throwing at her is real or isn't, but I think she definitely obviously ruined this poor lady's marriage. And you have to just wonder, if you're already under the gun, as she is, and you already have so many eyes looking at you, as she does, why on earth would you have an affair with someone that literally works for you? I mean, that is insane at her level.
Yeah, she may be doing herself in slowly. It's hard to say.
And there's nothing like a woman scorned. So this other lady, she's obviously put her name out there. Oh, she's not going to shut up. She's going to do interviews and all sorts of shit. She'd probably be on Fox next week.
I hope so. I'd like to see her. She's a redhead.
Sean Hannity. Next on Hannity.
I can tell you
the woman whose life was ruined by Ilhan Omar.
Yes, Ilhan, what's under that turban? The lady actually is a redhead.
Tucker's like, this would never happen in my gated community. Fix his bow tie.
It's very, very interesting that he went from redhead to turban head. He does not have a type. That's it, folks. We are going to wrap up episode number 10.
Ruthless Politics.
Ruthless Politics. It's always ruthless here. We knock out the competition with the most ruthless.
Follow us on Facebook, you fuckers.
Yeah, do all that. We're out of here. Space Coast Podcast Studios.